Well, hello again, everyone. It is a pleasure to see you, and I truly mean to see you. Now, the fact is, I couldn't see you anyway because I'm looking into the camera, and you are looking at me through the facility of the camera too. So you're watching the screen and all that, but I digress. The fact of the matter, for a period of time, I could not see, literally speaking. I just saw fuzz. And happily, I've moved beyond that, where my eyesight is much, much better due to the results of cataract surgery in both eyes. And so now, eyesight's better. Now we can start doing some things that we had intended to do from the beginning. Or we started, because I did start. I'm happy to know that a lot of people are following the videos that I have put out, but I've put nothing new out for quite some time. We're going to start off by where we left off, because I want to remind people that, and I'm going to say things perhaps a bit more unequivocally, okay? Let's figure out how to pronounce that word, but more specifically, there's no such thing as death. There is no death. And so I hinted at that in the beginning. I'm going to say it in no uncertain terms. Death is not a thing as we presently look at it. This past week, several people have left this plane of existence, and they've lived great lives, so to speak, according to these celebrities, etc. And the point basically is that you don't live a life here. So when you leave here, you're not leaving life. You're not going to be among the quote-unquote dead, because they are actually leaving a place that, relatively speaking, is dead. Relatively speaking, is devoid of certain aspects that make life meaningful. And two of those aspects, which are really two sides of the same coin, are love and truth. You can go a long way in terms of the metrics of success in this particular place, in this proxy of life. If you're making this or you're making that, if you've acquired this by whatever means, you can be perceived as having been quite successful. And then when you leave, people will honor you and they will think highly of you and everything else. But the soul itself, in many, many ways, will have been unfulfilled, unsatisfied, because there are certain goals, there are certain parameters that determine the evolution of the consciousness. That's the thing that's important. That's what goes with us and at all times, and that's what actually sets the tone for growth and for, instead of quote-unquote dying, so to speak, for ascending, for moving on in expansion to greater realms of experience. We really are clear that there is much, much more to this universe than, we can see it. Physically we can detect it, but can we get there? And on top of that, if we could, if they're living at a level of life, of freedom, of love, of joy, can we handle it if we haven't practiced it here? These are the things that you can succeed in this realm and not practice. You can be perceived as having succeeded, but not practice these very basic and fundamental aspects and elements of expansion and evolution. We are going through the motions, and if you make something called money, if you take from Peter to give to Paul, or whatever it is you do, if you act as though you're a good person, but on the, when no one is looking, really just I'm just going to say asshole, There's no, it can't be faked anywhere else but here. But that's not living. And so I'm going to do something, I don't want to preach all the time, but I'm going to say what there is to say, because time is, I'm going to say, of the essence, but not in the way you tend to think. The point basically is that if you don't die, if there's no such thing as death, there is such thing as repetition. This is where that word called karma comes in, stuff like that. This is the movie Groundhog Day, where you're doing something over and over and over again. And you know something, as you start changing certain things, this is where your limitlessness comes in. And this is where your authenticity factor has an opportunity to rise. In other words, you start doing the things that you wanted to do from the beginning, from before you came here, from before you left the living to come to this simulation of life. That's what this is. This is a simulation of life, and we come into it and think this is life and get convinced that there's nothing else but this. So I'm going to stop at this point. I want to say something else. I'm also going to invite you to join my Substack. I will post there. There are certain things that I want to say and I want to encourage that actually aren't that well accepted in our mainstream. And it's because the consciousness of not just a small group of people, but it's also the, I'm going to say, the acquiescence of a large group to what the small have to say. The ones who want to follow right off the bat. I don't want you to follow as much as I want you to emulate. Not my view of life, but your view of life with the love and truth. That's a natural part of it. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for doing what you do, for passing this on. If you see that there's value in what I have to say, the first thing I'm going to do is ask you to share it with someone else. And I'm going to also invite you to help me from a reciprocity standpoint. If your heart is so motivated, buy my book, I Am My Body Not. Okay? And I have some other things to share. But there is a QR code right there. Click on that. And these are 2024 prices. The original price for this book, which is a first edition, still coming from a carton, which I will sign for you. I have 800 pieces of that at present, at this moment. Please help me to fill and to send those out to 800 people. Because when I'm gone, I'm gone. And the value of that book is infinite. But even in monetary terms, it'll go up after I'm gone. But we're going to talk more about that. See, because I don't die, neither do you. And the book is a way to begin to broach that subject to your kids and their kids, etc. Because the truth will exist for lifetimes. With that, I'll sign off for now, wishing you peace, love, joy, and abundance, health, and regeneration. Till next time, out of here.